Ultra.
Goes huge for Ultra, and they get their first home series victory.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Main Esports. One of your hosts, Spencer, with me is Chris, and today, pretty standard show for you guys. We're going to give our predictions for the Stage 4 Major for the Call of Duty League. Obviously, very exciting time if you're a fan of Call of Duty, because this will be the first major that actually takes place on LAN. Now, to my understanding, there will not be any fans in the arena, but still, I think for everybody involved, I'm very excited to see what these teams can do on LAN, as it is about time that we kind of get away from this online era of the CDL.
Yeah, perfect timing too. The sun just came out. It's hitting my face and I now can't see anything.
Great.
So
absolutely love to see it. Hey, you got this gorgeous glow to you, Chris. So I'm sure
beautiful.
there's a glass half full to take from this. But with that out of the way, do you just kind of want to jump into things here?
Let's jump into things. But first, if you guys agree with our predictions, well, like and subscribe. But if you don't, let us know why.
Yeah, and I guess really quickly, if you guys have any Dark Horse teams who you think might make a run, Chris and I are going to give a little bit of a hot take on a Dark Horse team. Maybe hot, maybe not. But let us know who you think might surprise a lot of people at this major. I always think there's one team that kind of goes off the board and does some things that not everybody saw coming. So let us know. And with that out of the way, we'll just kind of jump right into the losers bracket. Let's start off with elimination round 1. This is the LA Thieves versus the LA Guerrillas. So actually kind of fun that it's a battle of Los Angeles at the beginning. Personally, I think this one's going to go to LA Thieves 3-0. I know that LA Guerrillas have looked kind of a surprisingly good team, but if I just think on paper the Thieves have too much talent, and with it finally going to land, if they're ever going to make a run, it's going to be now. And hopefully they can figure it out, and I expect them to take the first 3 maps here.
Yeah, unfortunately, I just don't think that the Guerrillas are good.
They've surprised. Honestly, they're better than I thought they'd be. But yeah, I don't think they're good enough to make a big run here.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe I predict them over London or Surge, but that's not the bracket they were dealt. So here we are. With that being said, the next game we're going to talk about, obviously, being the London Royal Ravens versus the Seattle Surge. This one's kind of hard to tell. At the end of the day, I don't think either of these teams are going to be a dark horse team to go on a run. So I do have the London Royal Ravens winning this. Although the Seattle Surge, I mean, with LAN, you just never know, right? There's some talent on that roster. There's some veteran presence on that roster.
I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. Octane, Gunless, they got some really good ARs, obviously. They looked okay with Classic. They were able to take a map off of Optic. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Seattle was to take this win and maybe another one. But at this point, I'm just going to go with London. They just looked a little bit more consistent from what I've seen. And to be honest,
not a better trajectory.
It's a 3-2. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, exactly. And let's go kind of move up to the winners bracket now. New York versus Roker. Now this is super, super interesting, obviously, because as you guys may all know, Asim's not going to be here. He's not going to be playing. So they need to pick up somebody else. And they need to pick up somebody else fast. So my guess is it's probably going to be AM from
they said that they wouldn't
US.
They said that they wouldn't pick up a player who's already under contract with an organization, which essentially means it has to be an AM from the U.S. because obviously the reason Asim can't get in is due to visa issues. So there's no way they would take a run at, somebody else who could potentially run into the exact same problems. This is an unfortunate situation. I think New York is going to be out pretty early in our predictions here, only because of the fact that I generally don't know who their fourth is. Like at this point in time, I don't know who the fourth player is going to be. And so until I have that information, then maybe I could predict a little bit better. I know there was like some rumors that, they asked Decimate and he turned it down. People were saying another potential players who could have turned it down would have been John or Saints. Obviously, if they would have picked up one of those 3 players, I still think they could have went on a run. I think those players are very talented, but at this point in time, the fourth hasn't been announced, and that's a really, really tough situation to lose one of your star players and Asim, who's been so good all year long right before a major. So with all that out of the way, I got to give it to Minnesota 3-2 because I actually think Minnesota is still a pretty good team. Again, healthy team versus healthy team. I take New York, but just given the circumstances, I think Minnesota's a safe bet here.
And we can't give up the fact that Minnesota got a pretty good run against Atlanta Faze the other day. Going in, I believe it was 3-1, but they had some competitive matches in the hard point and in the S&D.
Minnesota's a good
and
team.
They managed to take a control. So it's like they didn't do too bad considering how we placed them at the start of this stage, which is pretty darn low. Like they haven't done too bad.
No, I think Minnesota was a good team. They were a team that I predicted come out of winners bracket on that group. I thought they would have came third, to be fair, but no, I think they're a good team, and I think they're going to be a team to watch for this major.
Awesome. And next up, Optic versus Dallas. Now, this is a hard one too, because these are two teams that you expect to have a lot of that LAN experience, pretty good. But I feel like just with their performance in the past, even though Optic did get beat by Seattle, a little while ago, I feel like that's more of a blip in the radar where they had a fucking run and a half last major, and I think they'll edge out Dallas, but not edge out, more like a 3-1.
I think it's going to be a 3-2. I think this is actually going to be a close matchup here. I think because I agree that Optic does seem like that team that can get hot at a major and really turn it up, especially with the return to LAN. I think a lot of people are expecting them to once again get that sort of jump in competitiveness. And the problem is I think Dallas is also really good. I was really happy to see them finally get that 3-2 victory over Florida. They're starting to look like the Dallas we expected them to be with Vivid in the lineup. I think that SMG lineup of Shotzi Vivid is fantastic. If Crim6 and Illy can be a little bit more consistent and maybe LAN is a way to help, especially a player like Crim6 kind of get into that mojo and find his rhythm back, I think they can be a competitive team. I expect this game to be close. I think you're right. I think, when it comes to a bracket play on LAN, I got to go with the experience that Optic brings to the table.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's kind of bop into the elimination round 2 then.
Yep.
Paris Legion versus On Royal Ravens.
I think Paris is going to win 3-1. I think London, maybe could get an upset. I don't think Paris is a world beater by any means, but Paris has just been more consistent this year, and they have some good pieces on them. So yeah.
Yeah, now let's kind of touch on Florida versus Thieves, and I think Spencer has a couple hot takes in regards to this.
I might be the only, and I understand why you wouldn't pick LA Thieves. I very much understand that if you go off of like the online bracket and what we've seen recently, Florida is the better team, far and away the better team from what we've seen recently. There's just something about Slasher, Kenny, Hook, TJ on LAN for the first time in like a year and a half at a major that like should work, and I know it hasn't, and I know from what we've seen the last couple games, I mean, they had a really good game versus Minnesota, to be fair. They actually did quite good versus Minnesota. They got beat pretty bad by Optic. Their hard point has seemingly been struggling with this new roster, but I think there is a very realistic possibility that they 2-3-5 Florida, which means they win both Search and Destroys and the Control, and they're actually able to take this map. And I honestly I want the team to succeed so badly because they're such like legends of the sport. So I'm actually going to pick Los Angeles Thieves with a 3-2 victory here. This one could definitely backfire. This could be one of those predictions I think that you look back and you're like, how the hell do they predict LA Thieves to beat Florida? Because Florida seriously was looking like one of the best teams in the league. I don't know, man. I just think if it's ever going to happen, it's on LAN. It's right now, and I think they might be able to figure it out. So that's my prediction.
Yeah. You know what? It's a little tougher now that I realize there's no crowds there. LAN too. So I feel like that definitely creates more of an atmosphere for LAN.
I agree.
So it's a little tougher, but let's just fuck around. Let's do it.
Yeah,
there's a possibility. This is probably one of the closer games for me.
This is to be honest. In fact, I say it's one of the harder ones to predict. That's because I'm very much buying into like this LA Thieves LAN logic. This should be a pretty easy like 3-1 Florida. I think Florida should win. Like they maybe lose a Search and Destroy and they take the other 3 maps, but I just can't get over how well that team should work on paper, given their previous accolades. And I know that the fit hasn't worked, but we haven't really given them a ton of time. And with Hook finally being introduced alongside TJ, I think there's a possibility this could work out. I also maybe like to see Draza come back in there if it doesn't. So we'll see.
Yeah, let's go to winners round 2 now. FaZe versus Rocker. FaZe wins.
Yeah, I think FaZe wins this 3-1. Rocker's a good team. Obviously, you never know, but I think FaZe at this point is
FaZe beats everybody.
They're the best team in the league. I don't expect the switch to LAN to change that. They have all the experience in the world, and I think they're going to take it.
Yeah, and winners round 2, Ultra versus Optic. Ultra for 3-2, and this is, some people are a little concerned about this.
I think there's some validity to it to a degree. I think that this will be the first time you've seen Ultra play on LAN as a squad. Obviously, they're individual players that played on LAN in the past, but the first time this entire squad have played on LAN ever. And even a large portion of the roster is not exactly known for their having a ton of LAN experience. Obviously, I know CleanX and Insight obviously popped off at, LAN champs and Black Ops 4, and Insight was able to win the first amateur LAN in Minnesota last year. Cammy's had some runs in Black Ops 4 as well, but it's not like they are the, experience like some team like Optic would have, right, with your scumps and your formals. So I have Toronto winning this 3-2. I think that in order to predict Optic, you'd really have to buy into the LAN is a completely different game, and Optic's going to be a completely different team, and Toronto's not going to be anywhere near as good as they were without Bell 5, right? Like, you'd have to really buy into that mentality, I think, to predict Optic, and I just can't do that yet.
Yeah, you're totally right about that. Now, just going down to elimination round 3, we have New York versus LA. And I think Spencer, you brought up a good point a little earlier that, man, if LA's won this many games, they've kind of gone hot, they're ready to go. And New York still just has that question mark that adds a little too much uncertainty.
Yeah, and I think this was a better one even in comparison to the Florida team, because Florida's a decent, S&D control. They're a more well-rounded team. I think New York kind of was their bread and butter off of their hard points. So I think that there's definitely a real possibility that, LA Thieves could potentially 2-3-5 a team like New York, where they win both both search and destroys and then win the control. I actually think that's more likely almost than beating Florida 2-3-5. Sorry. The main reason I'm picking LA Thieves here is, one, that they get that momentum going, but also, two, I just don't know who New York's fourth is. It's like, if you're going to shut me for my New York prediction, I mean, fair enough. At the same time, like, I don't know what their team is going to look like. It's really hard to predict. Obviously, if this was a team, they'd beat LA Thieves, there'd be no question. But it's not. So I kind of got to go with the information that I currently have.
Yeah, and then Dallas Empire versus Page, Dallas 3-0. I don't think there's really discussion around this.
Yeah, Paris wouldn't be Dallas has looked shaky at points. I just think they got too much championship pedigree. I think they'll win.
Yeah. Let's go elimination round 4 now, too. Optic versus LA Thieves. I think this is where the LA Thieves run stops. Like, okay, good enough. You guys won freaking 3 games in a row. Like, they got to end it somewhere,
Yeah, I like to have a team that I think outperforms expectations. My team for this major is LA Thieves, even though I think people might be buying too much into the whole LAN is a completely different game. Like, I'm very much not one of those people. I think that LA might get blessed with a bit of a nice sort of schedule here, with potentially playing a team like New York, who is literally missing one of their star players. That game versus Florida is gonna be tough, but yeah, I can't predict Optic, especially at this stage in the game. Optic's played a few games under the belt; they're kind of getting hot. This is definitely where the LA Thieves train ends for me, and Optic takes it 3-1.
3-1. Let's go. Dallas Empire versus Roker now. This is for me another hard game to predict. And I feel like Dallas, we could either have a really competitive game where Dallas just edge out Minnesota Roker. And I also think we could have a game where Minnesota just really take it and just slap Dallas. But I feel like the likelihood of that's a little bit lower.
The problem is on paper, I think Dallas is a better team on paper. I also think they fit better. I've said before that I think Minnesota's got some talented players in their team. I don't love the fit of their SMGs with standing attached. I think they're both very talented players individually. I don't know if that fit truly works as well as maybe as like a Shotzi Vivid. I think you could arguably, there might be a trade in there where you improve both SMG and whatever. Regardless, I think that I just... On paper, Dallas should be a lot better. And we finally started to see it at the end, and it's going to land. I think Dallas should win this 3-2. And I think that there's Dallas has like a very sneaky possibility of being like a really dangerous team.
Snack.
Yeah, like I said, I think LA Thieves is a big dark horse team. I also think Dallas is. I don't know if you consider them a dark horse team because they are starting in winners.
I don't.
So if you don't, then obviously they can't beat. But if you do, I think that they could really go on a run here.
Yeah, I don't think they're too much of a dark horse. Even though they are technically kind of going on a nice run here.
Well, they should have started in losers, right? Like they just clinched it by 1 beating Florida, then 2 Toronto needed to beat New York. So if they'd either lost to Florida or Toronto hadn't beat New York, right, they would have started in the losers bracket. So
yeah,
kind of a dark horse.
Kind of. And then Faze Ultra,
I think
as much as I'm an Ultra fan, just Faze is gonna win.
Yeah, I don't break it down too much, especially since I don't believe we know the map pool at this stage. This is one of those things where there may be some validity to Ultra being a little bit less strong than they are going on LAN versus online, and I think even if this was online, I still would have taken Faze. So I would love to see Ultra, get the big upset, but personally, I think FaZe is just too strong.
And then Optic versus Dallas. I think Optic takes this pretty handily. So like 3-1. I'd even say maybe a 3-0.
I think Dallas will take a map. I actually think this could be a sneaky game. If Dallas again starts to figure out, sneaky little snake, starts to figure out their game plan around Vivid and Shotzi. But you're right. I think at this point, Optic's had enough game under their belt. They're starting to build that confidence, starting to get that momentum, and they should win this game.
Yeah, exactly. And then Ultra Optic. This is another really close one for me. I mean, we had a damn close game versus Ultra Optic last time.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here realizing that we're probably going to see the same thing. But even a little bit edged out even more to Optic because of, LAN. We keep on saying this. LAN.
But it's a big change, right? Like, it's a big difference. And I know there's no fans, and that definitely is a reason why LAN is being, sometimes going from online to LAN is such a drastic change, but it's still different. So I think you will see some teams struggle a little bit. I think if you're actually going to predict Optic to beat Toronto, this would be the match. I think at this point, again, they've played enough games, or they're hot, they're confident. And this is a really dire situation. At this point, top 3 elimination. Like, if the Struts was ever going to get to a team, it's probably more likely to get to a team like Toronto than it is a team like Optic. But with that being said, again, I don't think it's going to get to Toronto, and that's why I have them winning 3-2. But I'm less confident about this 3-2 prediction than I was about when they play potentially, at the beginning of the tournament, like Renner's round 2, for instance.
I'm just imagining bands trying to meditate, and if there were fans there, all the fans just screaming at them.
Yeah.
No, but I feel like Toronto being like a very composed team, I feel like a really good word to describe Toronto is composed. I think because they're such a composed team, LAN won't rattle them as much. I feel like if you're a kind of a team that wasn't LAN experience down in the lower kind of seeds, they'd be a lot more rattled and a lot more susceptible to LAN.
I agree. At this point, Toronto's been in a ton of dire situations so far this season, right? You think about clutching up versus Optic last major in the finals, or losers finals. You think about them literally winning the entire stage in stage 2, right? So I completely agree. They've been in some very intense situations. I don't think this will be any different.
Yeah, and then final major FaZe versus Ultra, like we predicted 3-2 before, like they're just gonna win again.
I think it's gonna be 5-3. I just think that, again, there's no doubt in my mind Ultra can beat FaZe. I don't want to make it seem like it's a lost cause. I just can't predict it. You know what I mean? I'm gonna cheer for it. I'm gonna root for it. If I woke up for some reason from a coma and they're like, "Hey, Ultra actually won," I'd be like, "Oh, that was awesome. That's great." Like, I'd believe it. I wouldn't be like, "What?" Like, if you told me Paris won or something, I'd go back to sleep. But if the Ultra did it, definitely within the realm of possibility. Very, very talented team. I still have them taking 3 maps off FaZe. FaZe is the best team on paper. They've shown they're the best team throughout the entire season. They've been so consistent. I just can't predict against them.
Exactly. And with that, guys, once again, let us know if we think we got things drastically wrong. Is freaking LA Thieves not going to go as far? Is, Dallas going to stay in winners? What are we going to see?
I think the LA Thieves one might be the one that I look back on this and I'm like, that was such a shit call by LA Thieves. Low-key go out round 1 for all I know, man. Like, I'm not.
Yeah, freaking just slapped silly
LA
by
Gorillas.
Gene.
Yeah, exactly. The Gorillas, like, notorious
Gene and Silly.
For their
silly
LAN
by
run.
silly.
Hey, they won 2018 champs by doing that, right? They just went on some insane run last second that no one saw. So for all I know, they're going to be knocked out the very first round. So hopefully they're able to prove that wrong going around. But yeah, guys, anyways, thank you for watching. As always, I hope you enjoyed. And thank you for watching.
And thank you for watching.
And enjoy.